Um,
We were talking
the,
about the consult.
yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, no, I felt really, really good, and I've been doing really well. And then yesterday, it was kind of weird. I had a like crazy day at work, and I had like the breadsticks or this thing. And I, looking back on it, I was going to bed. I totally binge ate yesterday. I think the carbs kind of triggered it, but I was totally numb. I
Hold
don't
on,
even.
the
I
carbs
mean,
don't
anything.
trigger anything. You just need to know it's not the carbs that triggered it.
Okay.
That thought right there, if you think that way, you'll never recover. The carbs
Okay.
didn't trigger anything. The funny thing is that you didn't recognize that you said you were it was a really stressful day.
Well, it, just some crazy stuff was going on at work, right? And I the baseline of my work is stressful, right? So when it gets
Yes.
really stressful, it's a lot. But so but what I can tell you is I just was totally numb. So you know how you say listen to your body? I totally checked out of my body.
Well,
That
of
is what I can
course,
tell you.
you can't. It's not a physical drive. That's why it's like it's not the carbs. Don't fall for that. That's not true. It has nothing to do with that. It's not physical. You don't have a physical issue. It's more of a mental sense of shame. Like if we were to go back and look at, hold on a second, just to reference, you are on the HCG protocol.
Yeah.
You are in the very low calorie stage. You're injecting HCG, so you're highly inflamed from that. And then so yesterday, because you're supposed to have carbs on the protocol, you're supposed to have the crackers, right? So what really triggers the binge? If we look at it, you could look at how bad. First of all, there was a desire to have more than the protocol limitations allow. And then your desire basically overrode all of the consequences you knew that would happen. The other part of it is there is a thought of you know what, I might as well, I failed. So there's a lot of intellectual thinking and logical thinking that goes into a binge. That has nothing to do with the actual cracker. It has to do with how you perceive the desire for more food. Does that make sense? And
Yes,
the feelings of,
intellectually it does.
yeah, well, don't. So when you say in that the crackers triggered a binge, so you're eliminating all of the conversation that you had in your head that had really nothing to do with the cracker. The cracker was basically that was your way of saying fuck it.
Right.
I did it wrong, so therefore the whole day is ruined. Right? So all of those thoughts went through your head. You didn't just eat a cracker and go woo and it went crazy. There was tons and thoughts and beliefs and thoughts and feelings and logic and conversations and decisions that were being made. So it's important for you in terms of your recovery to pause in those moments. Especially we're going to go back and pause it, looking at it in hindsight. So can you see why if someone just says, "Oh, the crackers triggered this binge," why I would go pause. Hold on. That's like saying the crackers did it to me.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And it's important for you to want to do that. You know, I'm not trying to just sit here and bug you. If you're going to recover, this is what you've got to be able to look at is to see that, oh, it's not the crackers. To blame the crackers is blinding me from ever recovering. It's blinding me from looking at what I'm doing, how I think, and what I believe that is manifesting this type of all or nothing approach on the protocol. Right?
Yeah.
So just as an observation, I'm assuming, Julie, that you really want to lose this weight, right? The whole point of the HCG protocol for you is to lose body fat. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And feel better. Like I can't do activities and
yeah
and play tennis and stuff.
Sure. Okay. So how important are those things?
They're very important to me.
Okay. So you've got to wonder then why you're on this miraculous hormonal therapy that has the promise of such incredible results in such a rapid period of time. why then, if you binge, in that you're okay with that? Like the logic around that, right? Because there's tons of logic around it. So the illusion that a lot of people have, and you're falling right in line with everybody else, is that the illusion of like playing tennis and doing sports is being magnified into something bigger than it really is. And your desire for food has been diminished into something less than it really is. And so when you get on this protocol, reality shows up, right? Your reality, it's no longer some fantasy of what you hope things would be like. It's the reality of what things are actually like, right?
Yeah.
So you're magnifying the importance of tennis. You're magnifying the importance of that in your mind. It's like a fantasy. It's like a dream. Oh, my life would be so much better. So there's a lot of, it's called you're cognitively distorting it into being bigger and better and more magical than it actually is. And on the other side of it, you are diminishing and making less important food on this protocol to make it seem easier than it really is. You get on the protocol, you're living your real life, and now what? Now what is actually happening? Food is being magnified in terms of how important and relevant it is, and then the actual needs that you think you want are not relevant at all, right? It's amazing how you can go from back and forth. Don't you agree? You go back and forth between those two.
Right.
In one moment, your life is catastrophic and you're fantasizing about something better, and your willingness to restrict food is like, yes. And the next moment, your willingness to restrict food is ridiculous. It's dumb. You're not going to do it. You don't want to do it. You'll sacrifice anything to get the food. And then the reality of what your fantasy was is not important in any way. It's not important. I don't need it. You know, I'm willing to sacrifice the end goal for my immediate wants and needs. So something to look at too is, you know, how, and I don't know if this is how you've been and how you've been monitoring this, how often people get into this protocol and they are so intensely needy for rewards with the weight loss, with the size loss, with the clothing getting smaller. And the moment they don't necessarily get that gratification, and the life reality makes the ability to restrict feel straining, how quickly they don't give a shit about their weight, and how you in your mind in the moment were totally cool gaining weight. Because I guarantee if you binged yesterday, your body went through pretty significant issues in terms of inflammation. So that increases fat accumulation, adrenals go up, you know, thyroid has to compensate, right? Sleeping issues may increase. So if you look at it, you go from one moment over magnifying and micromanaging the physical result of the protocol to not even caring that you're gaining weight. This is common with all or nothing survival kind of ego approach, which is if you're not going to lose weight, why the heck should you even do anything? What's the difference? It's like, let me see if I can find the words. It's catastrophizing anything other than perfect. So that if it's not perfect, moderate is still failure. It's like if I don't get an A+, I might as well just get an F, because if it's not an A+, nothing is meaningful. Only the best is meaningful. So I might as well surrender everything that I do, all of my habits, all of everything. I might as well, you know, it's like saying if I didn't get an A, I might as well have gotten an F.
Right.
So it's like, so you may not have lost weight, but so you're willing to gain weight. You know?
Well, I honestly, like, I haven't, before in the protocol, I weighed myself every day, and then I was going to weigh myself on like once a week on this protocol and measure myself, which I didn't do the last time.
Yeah, well then it may not be, and this is where a lot of people who are goal focused and goal oriented is if you don't get the goal, which if you're not weighing or measuring, you're not getting that validation to keep you motivated to continue on the protocol.
So you think I should weigh every day?
No, of course not,
oh, okay.
because it doesn't matter. Your issues with food are there whether you weigh or not. And the crazy thing is if you weigh and it doesn't match what you want, it's an easy sabotage. You'll go in and use that to blow everything up. So it's like, it doesn't freaking matter. The benefit of not weighing yourself is it forces you to really look at, I have issues with food, right? Clearly. I have, but ultimately your issues with food, are being used. It's used as a weapon. You know, you're using it as a weapon against your own body for the idea or the illusion that it's going to do something for you emotionally or in your life, right? It's kind of like getting on, let's just imagine you get on Facebook every day and you're constantly scrolling through everything. What's that actually doing? Is anything getting accomplished by being obsessed around what's going on in social media?
Right.
No,
I agree.
Absolutely nothing is happening. That's what you're doing with food. It's like you're doing nothing. In fact, you're doing damage because you have a perception of, you know, some type of insecurity or inadequacy in your life. So I guess what I want to do with you right now is let's go in and pinpoint where the failure occurred, right? So when let's just say you had your normal life, because you're describing, you said, I have a stressful job. It's normal. That's normal, right? So, and then were you hungry?
Yesterday?
Yeah. When you ate prior to the binge.
Yeah. I hadn't had enough to eat or drink during the day because I got stuck in these kind of marathon meetings and I didn't take breaks.
Got it. Okay, so you got really, really hungry. And so when you got out, when that was done, did you have like food packed? What did you do?
I did have food packed. And then what had happened is I packed it from the previous day and I forgot to put it in the refrigerator, so it was warm. You know what I'm saying? The leaves had wilted. It wasn't, other than the strawberries, it wasn't suitable to eat. I probably could have eaten it, but I didn't like it.
Sure. You probably could have fixed a different meal. You probably could have done a lot of different things, right? The possibilities are endless in terms of how to follow the protocol.
Right.
And so was that frustrating? Did you get a feeling of punishment, deprivation, anxiety? What was the emotion that was attached to that? Was there any?
I don't recall being any. I was just like, oh well, I don't think that really concerned me so much.
Okay, that's fine. I questioned that, just wondering if it did. So then what? So then what?
Then I had the breadsticks sitting beside me, and I was hungry, so I ate those.
So the breadsticks are those like grissini sticks, or what are those? So they're
the grissini sticks.
Okay.
And so I brought a box into my office so I would have them, like the full box, and I ended up during the day yesterday eating the entire box.
Okay. So of course. Let's go back to where we were. So you eat some of the grissini sticks, and let's talk about how that felt inside. I mean, obviously you're hungry, and it's helping the body remove that hunger. When did you decide I'm not going to eat anything else?
I didn't, and then later on during the day, I had some miracle noodles, like kind of during lunch, and I was good for like 3 or 4 more hours, and then I got hungry, and they were all I had left to eat, and I ended up just without thinking through it, I ended up opening like the 4 packs that are in there, eating them.
You just said you didn't think about it, you just did it?
Yeah.
That's not true.
Well, I was on a bunch of calls, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I had a proper meal and sat down and looked at it. I was just kind of like it's kind of like what I do. I was just kind of grazing at food and not paying attention. Then I look back, I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah, you knew what you were doing. It's important that you admit that to yourself. You knew at some point, I'm now over the protocol. You knew that. Admit it to yourself.
Admit it what?
You admit it to yourself. You didn't go, oh shit, I've just broken the protocol and ate 3 packs of boxes of grissini sticks. Oh shit, what have I done? That didn't happen like that. You know what you're doing when you're doing it? There was a conscious awareness that that's what you were doing. Conscious.
At some level, sure.
Yes, it's important you admit that to yourself. Tell yourself the goddamn truth. I mean, I'm holding you accountable to that truth. You've got to be able to tell yourself the truth if you want to get better.
Okay.
Because that's not what happened. You're lying. You're in denial. And the good thing I know that, right? Good thing I'm like, oh, she is like, what? No, that's not what happened. Tell me the truth. Tell yourself the truth. I already know what happened. Tell yourself what happened. You did not just unconsciously chew the food. You're not that. Your intelligence level is that of a human's. Right? You're not a dog.
Right.
You're super intelligent. You know what you're doing.
I got myself trained to like
justify, rationalize, reason, argue for it. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you negated to talk about in your own mind, is how you chose to do it. It's a decision. No one made you. It wasn't unconscious. It was totally conscious. In fact, you were arguing for it in your mind and making excuses, right? Tell the truth. It helps you. It'll feel good to do that for yourself, right? So at some point in there, you said, first of all, you're being bothered by the protocol. So in that process, and I could see myself being that way, so I'm not judging you, okay? You're busy. You don't have the food. Fuck it. I might as well. I don't have the time. I don't have the jerky. I don't have my shit. Fuck it. When, at some point that happened. Am I right? Wrong? Is there a different explanation?
It's really like this protocol is really inconvenient for me right now during these 3 or 4 hours.
That's what I meant. It is bothersome. That's what I meant by it's bothering me. This is a pain in the ass. Right. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. Are you kidding me? It's a radical fringe protocol that's really meant for people who are morbidly obese, and you're not. Of course it's a pain in the ass. There's no argument. You know what I mean? There's no argument to that. You're right. It's true. It requires preparation. You can't just eat grissini sticks all day. Your body is far more sensitive with the HCG and the amount you're injecting than it would be if you didn't have HCG. You know, that is the risk you take when you do a medically prescribed hormonal therapy that is not a diet. The problem is when you approach it like a diet, all of a sudden it becomes bothersome, burdensome, and it's you know, and the other thing, I think this would be something for you to look at, is how I'm assuming, and please tell me if I'm wrong, you often have this feeling of being bothered.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That is something for you and I to open up and look at. I'm being bugged. This is annoying me. I'm being, what's the word you used? It's demanding. Too demanding. Too much for me. It's like a fly, like you're swatting at a fly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agitation in there. And so I'm assuming it's not just the protocol that makes you feel that way.
Correct.
You just feel that way?
Well, there's a whole lot of things that happen that shouldn't, that get just laid on my feet.
Say that again. That get what?
That get laid at my feet. Right? The messes of other people's messes that I need to clean up.
Got it. And you're victimized by it. So that feeling of burden and feeling of being bugged, if people are bugging you, that type of strain can come from a variety of different things. Especially if you're demanding yourself to perform on a very high level. Right? So imagine, again, this is something that I would feel too under the circumstances if I had the same viewpoint and the same way to process or cope with it. It's understandable, so hope you don't think that I'm judging you, because I'm not. Imagine if I'll use myself as an example here, and maybe you can see the parallel. If I had a deadline, okay, to submit the book I'm writing to be published in a month from now, Okay.
Uh-huh.
Every day, the amount of work that would require in that period of time would require that I eliminate cleaning my house, doing the kids' laundry. I'd have to eliminate sleep. I'd have to get up super early, go to bed super late. I would have to eliminate the time that it takes for me to take my dogs for a walk. I couldn't go grocery shopping. Okay. So imagine, am I describing a sense, if you were in that position that you live in, like this is your, am I describing your life?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Imagine the agitation I would feel and the feeling of you're bothering me, you're burdening me. If someone came to me and said, Mom, I need you to take me to this event, I'd be like, leave me alone. I've got to get my shit done. Right. So the pressure that you have to perform, and there's probably time constraint in the performance. Obviously, like if there was lots and lots of time, I don't know what you do, but I'm assuming there's time constraint. If there wasn't a time constraint for you to do what you're doing, you probably wouldn't be so put out by little things. Like,
exactly.
I need to feed myself. So when
right.
so feeding yourself don't you agree, like that's just a part of being there, that's humane. Like it's something that, no one should work without eating unless they live in famine and in a third world environment and there's no food available. Like forcing people to work without having breaks, to go to the bathroom, to go eat. I mean, obviously, if you were a surgeon and you needed to be in heart surgery for 6 hours, that's a little unique circumstance. But in general, circumstance-wise, people should have the ability to use the restroom to feed themselves so that the hunger pains can go away. Right? I mean, just simplify this thought process. So what type of work environment do you live in to where you aren't allowed to even, you realize the protocol is less than 500 calories in terms of the amount of food you have to prepare. So when we say it's a big burden and it's hard to do, is it really when it comes to preparing less than 500 calories of food? It's not like you're preparing 2,000 calories in like the amount of food that you would if you were in the real world. You'd have to prepare a lot more food, right? So if you look at your sensitivity to burden and sensitivity to feeling punished or victimized by the work that it takes, don't look at the protocol as the cause of that so much as why are you so pressurized to where something as minimal as eating less than 500 calories is burdensome, right? Have you thought of it from this viewpoint? To question the environment that you've put yourself in, and that maybe the work environment is. I mean, imagine, sweat, when people are doing, what's it called? The workers who work in terrible environments, they can't use the restroom. They have to do a certain amount, that type of environment. Are you in that type of hostage work environment where it's really abusive?
No.
Okay, so it's not the environment. Okay, so the next person that we're going to point the finger at is who?
Yeah, no, it's me.
Okay. So we got to look at your ego involved here, because the emotion that you're bringing to the table is indicative that this is not about making money. There's something more to this. There is a level of expectation you might be holding yourself to, that if you don't meet that expectation, it's personal. There's a personal, are you using the success you have in work as a personal indication of your value, your worth, your accomplishments? Because if you were, that would make sense then why you would be so driven and be so inhumane in terms of your environment, your working environment, to not be able to take a break,
I mean, I don't even know that. How do I say that? I just get. Here's what ends up happening. I end up working on something and losing track of time, right? Because it's solving some kind of technical problem at work. I'm chief operations officer of a 7x24 global organization.
Okay,
right? So
got it.
That's a busy job, and they're happy with my work. There's a lot of things that come undone that are unscheduled and planned that I get sucked into. No one ever tells me I can't order food in, I can't go out. No one dictates when I come to go to work.
Yeah, it's not your environment. It's how you approach it.
Right.
Yeah. Somehow in this relationship you have with work, you can look at it like a marriage or a relationship. It's off balance. It's got to be. For you not to be able to feed yourself less than 500 calories, it's off balance.
Right.
You know, and it could be just habits. Like you have terrible habits at work. That could be a simple solution. But can you see whether you're on the protocol or you're in the real world, this is something that may be a real source of issues for you, not just physically, but emotionally, because you believe in being thinner and you have all that magnified emotionality around thinness, it's even more conflicting when you get too hungry or you eat food that you feel is bad.
Okay.
Do you see that?
Yeah. I see it.
Good.
I've never been seeing it and knowing how to solve the problem. Yeah, I do feel bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then it's a slippery slope. I'm like, well, I just had that, so I should have a bowl of ice cream.
Exactly.
At this point, tomorrow's another day.
See, exactly. So you get what I was just saying. It's like on top of that, you live in this environment. You're working in an environment in your head that is not prioritizing your body in any way.
Right.
And then you put yourself in a position as someone who's a thin supremacist, as someone who's got righteousness around food, to sin, if you want to call it that. And then you've sinned, so you might as well sin all the way before you try again tomorrow. So it puts you in kind of a real strained environment. If you didn't have the body image issues, you wouldn't have the binge effect. You might overeat. Like if I get too hungry, I tend to, like everybody else, we tend to eat too fast. We tend to not chew enough. We tend to swallow food whole, and our likelihood of overeating goes up. But binging is a whole nother conversation. Binging is an emotionally charged, cognitively controlled impulsivity. Right? Binging is, I shouldn't eat that. I've ruined it. Screw it. I might as well. I failed. Let's get everything that I can in today. That's failure food, because tomorrow I got to be perfect again. That's a binge. People who don't have this type of body image goal or fantasy, they don't do that if they don't eat for long periods of time. They go, oh my God, I'm so glad to eat. Oh, it tastes so good. I feel so much better. And that's it. It's done. There's no residual anything after that. Their whole mind goes into the rest of the day. Doesn't that sound like a dream? To not.
Yeah, and that's like one of the gals I work with the same way.
Yeah, that's because she doesn't have the same kind of, you could say, radical body image belief system or pressure to lose weight, right? Based on that belief system. So you can look at this. It's not just one thing. It's a variety of things that kind of put you in this position. There's the way you work, the way you're working, which is not really prioritizing the body's needs as you should. And it doesn't even take much. It really doesn't. It's like when I was working at the clinic, the HCG clinic in Minneapolis, when I wrote Weight Loss Apocalypse, I would sit for hours with patient after patient after patient, doing all this education and teaching them HCG and leptin and all this stuff, constant talking, standing at a grease board for sometimes 6 hours straight. And I found that when you work like that, and I know you're going to connect with this, you get a headache. you get to where you're not focusing on the body. Your mind is focusing on the project at hand, but your body starts to get agitated. It's like shaky. It's like the battery goes, and your head hurts, and it doesn't help your production, right? And so what I found is I needed to make sure I had food available. Sometimes it couldn't be food I could eat. It had to be liquid form. So I would just buy these, Kirkland Signature Costco protein shakes that I didn't really like, but they kept it so that I could have the energy to get through, let's say, 6 hours before I got to eat a real meal. So that's habit. Do you see how that's a simple habit change for you? That's not that big of a deal. That shouldn't feel like, oh, that's a genius thing to think about. Basic habit change for you that I think is something you're going to need to do as long as you have this job.
Well, and these are the types of jobs I always have, so they're not really going to change.
Oh, exactly. This is really just a matter of habit change on your part. And it shouldn't be habit change because you need to diet and lose weight. It's something that is done because even if you were thin, let's just imagine, even if we could snap our finger and you could be thin, if this environment isn't good, it's not, you can't live like that. It's like telling your kid to go to school with no food.
Yeah, so I hear you.
Yeah, it's just habit change. So that one's easy. I don't think that is actually, if you're hearing it, you're like, oh yeah, no, it's no big deal. So what I am going to suggest for you in terms of that solution while you're on the HCG protocol is to go get those protein shakes. They're at Costco. It's called Premier Protein. Do you have a Sam's Club account or a Costco account?
Yeah.
Okay, so they carry this Premier Protein. I studied this the first 3 years I was monitoring people on the HCG protocol. I did not see that it made any impact to their metabolism, their rate of fat loss, the rate potential gain. I did not see a major impact. So in terms of when I prepare people in my list of foods, that's one thing I have added is the Premier Protein shakes that are, at Costco or Sam's Club or Walmart. You can buy them online. And that might be a real helpful thing for you to have around the office.
Okay, so let me look at, they're called Premier Protein?
It's called Premier Protein, and it's like, they have a big thing that's powder form. Don't get that. It's not the bars, the protein bars. It's the pre-made shakes that come in their individual, and one of those is equal to one protein. So,
okay. And so I get 2 proteins a day?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So and a lot of people can't drink it all at once. So it's important that if you need to, that you just listen to how your body responds. You might find that after a half of it, you need to stop. It can be very filling.
Okay.
So that's the other.
$24.99.
Yes.
18 pack. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're way better cold. They're really good blended with ice. Sometimes people blend it with their coffee, so it's kind of an ice mocha coffee.
Okay.
Some people blend it with frozen strawberries, so it's like a little chocolatey fruit shake. And again, you just have to listen to how your body's responding to it. So if you start to feel full from half of it, you need to stop. Don't drink the whole thing just because Robin said it's one protein. I eat the whole protein. You just got to listen to how your body's responding to it. So the other thing is jerky. You can have 97% fat-free jerky.
Okay.
Plain jerky, not the teriyaki, so that's something that doesn't have to be refrigerated either.
Right.
So it's a little bit easier. Obviously the grissini stick, in fact, in the state you were in, if you get that hungry again, I always recommend you eat the cracker first because that's going to help the blood sugar crash a lot sooner. And then once you have that, then you move on to the next food items. And you should find that they become, you're actually meeting the needs of the body. Now, where this went wrong is when you were not prepared and you were like, did not have the time or the energy or the desire to just go find the protocol worthy food, is when you said, I've already ruined it. I might as well just eat everything here because it's already done. Complete. As if, you know, this is the crazy part. This is what tells me a lot about your mental approach to this protocol. As if eating a couple grissinis more than what Dr. Simeon's required is just as bad as eating 3 more boxes.
But just, you lost me there. Which is what?
It's just as bad as eating 3 boxes of grissinis. You failed, so you might as well eat 3 more boxes or however much you ate, the binge.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that small amount. There's a huge difference in how you just affected your hormones. Having just 2 grissini above what Dr. Simeon said, or 3 or even 5, is significantly less damaging than 20. But because this is about weight loss, and you didn't lose weight today, I might as well gain 5 more pounds. Like there's no, if it's not an A, I might as well get an F. If I don't lose weight today, I might as well gain 5. That tells me a lot about why you're doing this protocol, right? And we talked about that in your consult last week. It's like, this is about your weight, which is really about you. If this is a selfish process that's self-serving, this is where this protocol is dangerous. It's dangerous. Physically. You know, look at how different it would have been yesterday. Let's look at this from a different point of view. How you would feel and approach this. If you were doing this protocol to prepare your body for a kidney transplant. Let's say you're going to donate your kidney to a family member you love or a really good friend that you love and care about. And this protocol was a part of the process of preparing you for that surgery. How would yesterday have gone? Would it have been different?
Well, the day before it was equally stressful, but I had the food and it was there, and you know what I'm saying? And I had often, and I think this is true, like hunger and thirst go hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't drink enough fluid, even today I haven't.
So let's go back to my question. If you were doing this for a loved one and you needed to do this for a kidney transplant that you're going to participate in, how would yesterday have turned out?
Right, I would have done it.
It would have been very different.
Right.
Very different. You would have felt different about it. It would have been important to you. You wouldn't have felt pissed off or burdened.
Right.
So that's really important for you to see, like, oh, the meaning and purpose for why I'm doing this has a direct impact on my perception of it. But because this is about trying to be thinner, which is superficial, it really isn't about your tennis game. It's about you being thinner. It's superficial. This whole thing is punishing. There really isn't much gratification from the weight loss. The fantasy has all the gratification. Reality, there's not much you're getting out of this. Right? You get out of it what you think you'll get in a fantasy. And so it's like, why do the protocol when there truly is no gratification that you're getting out of it? It's only a fantasy. So if you did this for a real intentional purpose that is physical and is a gift and something that is devoted to a love and caring act, this is the easiest thing ever. And you wouldn't care about the weight loss as a result. Again, go back to the whole kidney transplant concept. Would you be caring about the physical weight loss as much if you were doing this for that reason? Right? And not only that, but the protocol then would take on a whole different, the actual very low calorie protocol in the second phase and third phase of the protocol would actually have, you would see it as what's necessary as a medical procedure. So it's a necessary part of a medical procedure. Correct?
Yeah.
And so the stress over gaining weight back wouldn't be there. You wouldn't care. You're just doing what you need to do for this purpose. And all of the superficial garbage doesn't really have any influence in it. There's not as much emotional attachment that's self-serving to it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So the goal would be that the protocol in your mind is a medical procedure. It may not be a gift you're giving to someone else's body, but it's a gift you're giving to your own body. Your own body's kidneys. It's like your own body's organs, your own body's metabolic system. It serves the body you're in. Why treat the body you're in as if it is a worthless pile of shit that can get the crap beat out of it and it's not a big deal, you know? And then to feel like you're burdened by the fat because you can't play tennis. It's so sad that the body's doing this to you. And then I have to be burdened by the very low calorie protocol. It's a big pain in the ass. It's kind of funny when you step outside of it. It's like, oh my God, it's super childish.
Right.
You've lost your sense of reality. You know, it's like you're an adult, you're super intelligent, you have a ton of wisdom. Why is it when it comes to your body and food, you're a juvenile delinquent?
I don't know, but I am.
I know, it's funny. Don't take that personal. It's like, it's really kind of funny. Laugh at yourself. It's funny. I know it's miserable, but it's funny. Part of that is because the HCG diet industry is juvenile. It's straight out of 7th grade. You're going to lose so much weight. Everybody's going to love you. You're going to be like popular. So cool. So they've taken something that is so miraculous and it's incredible. And they've made it look like shit. I mean, it is a joke. It's hard to be taken serious. When I tell people that I've studied the HCG protocol and I've looked at it and wrote a book about it, do you know what a joke I look like? I'm attached to that shit. It's a flippin' joke. So they've taken this incredible medical procedure and prostituted it. So my goal is to help you get your mind back into your intelligence and your wisdom, to get out of the junior high way of thinking about it. This isn't about your popularity. Why make it about that? It's really not about your game of tennis. The HCG protocol is a medical hormonal therapy for your endocrine system. It has nothing to fucking do with you wanting to play sports. Right?
Right.
Why are those attached? Well, that's your ego, your self-righteousness, and how you feel victimized by the body you destroyed. You know, that's the juvenile delinquency that you're living in when it comes to this. And so we've got to be able to separate those two ways of being, right? Let's get rid of the juvenileness. You don't need that anymore. You're not 14 years old. Look at the body as a magnificent, life-giving system. I mean, it's amazing. You have children, right?
Yeah.
The body you're in created other human bodies. I mean, it's amazing. This is not about you. So take yourself out of it. Take your emotional juvenile needs out of this. And what you're going to find is that this protocol is so easy. Super easy. You know, when you did your first round, didn't you find that it was easy?
Yeah.
That's because you probably most people, when they first do the protocol, they are doing it as medical procedure and they're nervous about it. They're a little scared about it. It's kind of crazy. It's a little radical. They read Dr. Simeon's Pounds and Inches. He is absolutely looking at it from a medical viewpoint. And you're positioned to look at this as a hormonal therapy. It's when you change your position around what it's serving, that shit goes bad.
Right.
Usually the first round, it serves your body. It's not serving you, it's serving your body. And you're willing to make the sacrifices. You're doing it with an open mind. You're not closed-minded about what you expect as results. At least most people. I'm not speaking for everybody, but most people do it for medical reasons, which is why they have such an incredible first experience. Once it becomes self-righteous serving, it's about me fitting into those pants. It's about me proving that I can do it to my family. Now you just diminished the protocol as a diet. It just became a diet. And so how do we change the approach from the protocol being a diet that serves your emotional problems and your insecurities and your cognitive distorted wants and needs that are fantasies with the body that come from emotional problems, to a hormonal therapy that is medical procedure meant for the body and that reason only. If we can make that transition, it's going to be very easy for you. It's like a no-brainer. It's as simple as it's a no-brainer, the protocol as a medical procedure. It's simple, cut and dry. You just do the little things you need to do to make sure that you're prepared, which is a big deal. It's a big deal that you need to be prepared. But you also wouldn't be so catastrophized if you can't do it perfectly. It wouldn't be such a catastrophe. If you were doing this for the purpose of donating a kidney for someone else, right? Let's just say that's protocols needed to prepare the kidneys. If you fudged on it, you wouldn't go, fuck it, I might as well just binge on everything. You would never do that. Why? Well, because that would cause more damage. Why would you do that? Just be okay with what you did. Let the body adjust. It's no big deal. Move on. Right? Do you see that? But because it's not serving, so it's important that you see the line, that you see the difference between self-serving juvenile destruction and that part of you that is wise and, aware, intelligent. And why isn't that running this protocol? Well, obviously it's because of the reason why you're doing the protocol. So all we need to do right now, if you want to successfully finish this round, you need to absolutely change the reason you're doing this protocol and how your intentions are about it. You cannot afford to make the intentions of this protocol about your emotional insecurities and low self-esteem. You cannot do it. It will not work out. It will make you feel punished. You will feel pissed off and punished. Because it doesn't really actually improve those things. It's a physical process, not an emotional process. Therapy is what the other side is for, right?
Yeah.
I know. So, yesterday, I think, was an awesome opportunity for you to see all this, for us to open it up and go, okay, first of all, this and that, go back to what you originally said, which is, I had the Bristini sticks and I think the crackers were a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how irrelevant the crackers are?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Intellectually, I see it.
You should emotionally at this point, too.
I know if I go have more Grissini, open up a pack of them, I'll want more of them.
Well, why is that? So you do, and understand
why.
I
like the way they taste.
This is way more than that. That's not.
I agree.
Okay, good. So don't rely on that one thing, because that's so minimal. That's not the majority of it. That's such a minimal aspect. So don't blow it out of proportion and catastrophize the taste of those Grissini, because that's really not the problem. You and I both know that. Part of the problem, too, I think it's important for you to recognize is you've been brainwashed by the diet industry to say that. Everybody confirms and says the same thing, and no one is held to a higher standard of intellect when it comes to this behavior. All I'm doing is saying, you're lying to yourself. I don't believe it. No one, I know that, the truth is there. You just got to stop going into that. It's lying to yourself. For what? It's not the taste of the grissini stick that you're looking for. It's freedom from having to feel bothered by the restrictions.
And so to get around that, I just remember this is a medical procedure.
Well, you can't remember that. You need to make it that. It shouldn't require memory. It is a matter of you choosing, this is not about my weight. That's just a small part of the outcome of what this is going to do for my body. It's not about my weight. I want you to imagine what will happen if you continue to do this protocol and you do it to the best of your ability. The best of your ability under the circumstances, which is all you really can do. Okay?
Right.
And you lose absolutely 0 pounds of fat. However, there is an improvement to the adrenals, and there's an improvement to your menstrual cycle. There's an improvement to your energy levels and your sleeping patterns. There's intricate shifts that are going on in other areas of your life.
Mm-hmm.
How would that feel?
Awesome.
Okay, so why fixate on the weight then? Like, let that go. Do you see how if you let the whole concept of weight loss go, all of a sudden your intellect shoots up. Like, you're not so dumb. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now all of a sudden you're wise and you're patient and this isn't that big of a deal. But as soon as this becomes about your weight, you become about 12 years old and you're having tons of fits. You're feeling pissed off and punished by what you have to do. Right? Might be even less than that, like 8 years old or 5 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the grissini just tasted so good. I needed it. You know what I mean? No. That's not true. Aren't you glad I don't buy that shit?
No, it's the context. I see what you're saying. It
Yes.
really is.
You cannot look at it like that juvenilely. That's how immature the diet industry is. Everything is looked at from a juvenile perspective. Because it tastes so good, you have to eat it. No. It has to do with you being pissed off that you're restricting food and you don't want to be bothered by it. It's bothering you. And the reason why it's bothering you is because there really isn't that big of a payoff in weight loss. It doesn't really make your life better. If it did, you would be increasingly feeling the improvement of your psyche, and your whole entire life, space, and being would be amazing with every pound lost. It doesn't work like that. You know? Body fat does not give you access to enlightenment and consciousness. It has no connectivity to it. Right?
Right.
So to think by losing weight it's going to improve anything is a lie. That's like saying, when my toenails are painted, I will have a better marriage. It's funny, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. What does body have? I mean, it has a lot to do with symbolism. Has a lot to do with the culture of thin idolization. You know, if we look at the body image industry, this has been going on for thousands of years. It's just changed what type of body image makes people valuable. You know, if we look at through history, ancient times, they used to bind babies' heads to create a longer skull. For whatever reason, that was promoted. The ancient Egyptians, because they used to shave their hair because of lice and other pestilence, they had these wigs, and wigs were used, and their hair and fake hair was used to separate classes. And if you have your hair this way, that means you're a slave. And the richer people got, the more different they created their hair to separate themselves from others. So it was like hair image. You look at like in China, for decades, or for hundreds of years, for centuries, they believed that the size of a woman's foot, the smaller it got, the more valuable she was as a human being. So they would bind their feet. It's called foot binding. Look it up. They still, in some areas, do this to get the women's feet to be close to 4 to 3 inches long. And that was their way to monetize the women to be sellable for marriage. They would, oh, look at her feet. She has this aura of superiority around her, right? Then there's the Victorian era in England, the English Victorian era with corsets. Now you can look at corsets and go, well, that was kind of a blip in the radar of body image compared to, let's say, foot binding in China. Right? But now look at what's going on. And at different times, well, right now, over the course of the last century, it's lasted close to 100 years. Thinner women are more superior. So the emaciated look, the gaunt look, the more lean you can get, like foot binding, you're binding your metabolism, if you want to call it that, through starving yourself, as if in order for you to be sellable and to be monetized as a human, you have to be thinner, And there's been in history where bodies that were more voluptuous were seen as more valuable. But that wasn't in times of famine so much as it was the biggest separation of class between the rich and wealthy and the poverty that came as a consequence to that wealth. Right? So the people in poverty who couldn't afford food, who were slaves to the wealthy, were seen as inferior, and the wealthy used their fatness to say, I'm superior to you. So now it's just flip-flopped. Right? But it's lasting a century. When is this going to change? What do we have to live through? More and more eating disorders for us to go, oh, well, this whole concept of thin supremacy is a terrible consequences. Maybe we should stop. How long did it take corsets to go away because of that? How long has it taken China to stop binding women's feet for them to stop? It took like 1,000 years before they didn't pass it down to the next generation. Someone had to say, this is not okay. My daughter should not be valued by our ability to essentially disable her, binding her feet, to make her incapable of moving herself. You know what I'm saying? So with thin supremacy, you're doing the same exact thing. I will be valued if I follow that body image. If I get longer eyelashes and get fake eyelashes, I will be seen as a more valuable person. If I get thicker eyebrows, right, that's my gift to people, are my thick eyebrows. Those are different kind of subcultures in body image that are being promoted right now. It's just crazy.
Right.
That's why you're doing the HCG protocol, is that. Can you see why it would feel so shitty?
Yeah.
I know. It's kind of a extreme protocol for something so superficial.
I mean, the reason I got on it was to get healthier and to feel, physically feel better, move better.
Yeah, well, that clearly isn't running the show. So that's just one. If you tell yourself the truth, you can say that sounds good and all. Sounds good and all.
So then what's running the show?
Well, clearly it's something that goes beyond that. Because honestly, that even then, you're not 200 pounds. You're not 300 pounds even. So when you look at it, is your body really unhealthy? So the illusion of unhealth isn't even, you don't even have evidence.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I feel awful at this weight.
Well, when you're binging, of course you feel awful. Because that's how you gain the weight back. You're not looking at your overall binge eating cycle. That's why you feel so shitty. Is it the weight, or is it what you're doing to your body as you take a break from the restrictions and the dieting that's causing that awful feeling? Is it really the weight? Is the weight really that horrible? Is it really, if you just think about it without the emotions attached to it?
Well, I mean, the reason, I mean, there's a definite piece of it because I was walking around Italy and it was so hard for me to move. Like, I'm used to, like, being active. It's a lot carrying an extra 30 or 40 pounds around.
Yeah, you know, I wish I could just say, oh, yeah, but I just am not. It's just not.
I hear you. I'm just telling you.
I know.
I don't feel particularly good at this weight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whether I'm eating healthy or not.
It doesn't matter. You're cognitively distorting it to be way worse than it actually is. And so the reason I know that is because you're going to a radical protocol thinking it'll fix it. You have a radical disproportioned reality and sense of it in reality. If you had to be 175 pounds the rest of your life, how catastrophic is it really? How catastrophic?
It would be challenging for me because it's hard for me to stay at 175, so not be 225.
Why would you be 225?
What?
Why would your body go up to why would it gain 50 pounds? Why would the body gain 50 pounds?
I don't seem to be able to be able to. If you said you have to be at 175,
yeah,
I would say that's a real challenge for me to even stay at a particular weight.
Well, obviously, that's because of all the emotional baggage you're carrying around and how that projects into dieting and depriving and all of the stress you have around deprivation. Yeah, that's a totally different conversation. I'm talking about the physicality of 175 pounds. The question I originally asked.
My hips and knees, I've been physical therapy for like 4 years.
Okay, that could be postural, has not so much to do with your weight. So I need you to look at this open-mindedly. Like, I understand this. My degree's in exercise physiology. I was a personal trainer for years. I focus specifically on posture. So I need you to, what I'm trying to get you to do is open your mind smaller to be not so small. Look at this from a bigger perspective. What you're telling me is why you have issues. I get that. You catastrophize this. It's a catastrophe, which is why the HCG protocol makes sense. Right?
Okay.
So if it was permanent, there's no possible way it's going to be less than this, especially since your metabolism is being abused on this protocol. So you're destroying the system, or telling it at least through your behavior that it needs to have this fat. That's what you're telling it. Okay, so the reality of what I'm telling you is actually quite relevant. So let's just look at it. If your body at this point will naturally stabilize on its own, its natural state is going to be where you're at, which is at 175 forever, till the day you die. Just answer the question. Physically, is it that bad?
I'm sorry, the question
is having to be 175 pounds for the rest of your life physically that bad? Is it a catastrophe?
For me, I'm going to say yes.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10?
I put it an 11. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I believe you. I know that's how you feel. Okay. So now I want you to, let's look at what it really means to be, in a terrible body. I want you to imagine that you get in a car wreck and you get a spine injury and you end up being a paraplegic. You'll never regain use of your legs. You're still alive. You're still cognitively there. You don't have brain damage. You can hear. You can see. You've got everything you need, except you are now wheelchair bound for the rest of your life. Where would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10?
As far as how bad that is?
Yeah, the catastrophe. Remember, 175 was 11. Where is that? You went above and beyond. Like, I might as well die, right? So let's now look at real catastrophe. Where would you place that?
Okay. I mean, that's obviously a 10.
Okay.
Catastrophe.
Let's just keep on going. Let's imagine that you you're starting to have issues, and you can tell your ears have been ringing, and you find out that you are losing your hearing and you are going to be deaf in a matter of weeks, and there's nothing they can do about it. There is no ocular tubes they can put in. You will be deaf permanently for the rest of your life. Where is that on a scale of 1 to 10 of catastrophe?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably an 8 or 9, yeah.
Yeah, you'll never hear music again. You won't hear your children's voice again. You'll never, you'll never hear a movie or audio. So let's say that you are, in your kitchen, and there is oil that's, and somehow it gets spilt all over your face and chest. Okay. And so you have chemical burns all over your face and arm and leg, and your face, your nose is partially gone because the cartilage in the fat in your face melts, and that doesn't come back. So your face ends up looking like bony and holes and stuff like that. So you're going to have skin grafts. So you'll be permanently disfigured, and there will be nerve damage and nerve pain. But you still have your arms, you still have your legs, you still have your sight and your hearing, and you can still taste food. You can still function, but you are now just disfigured permanently.
Right.
Where is that on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of catastrophe?
Yeah, that's like 7 or 8 compared to the other one.
Yeah. So what?
I guess you're saying weight becomes a 2 or a 3.
Yeah, it's so fucking dumb. It's hilarious that you said it was an 11, but that's the truth of how cognitively distorted you are about it. You really said it was an 11, and you truly felt that. That's how messed up your thoughts are about it. I know, right? See how important this it's like, wow, why? Oh, my knees, I could feel them. It was hard. Okay. Yeah, of course. No wonder you're attracted to something as radical as the protocol. I know that makes sense. I understand that, right? But you've never questioned it as messed up. You've always thought that's relevant, and it's true. And you have no idea, and you're not seeing the connection between how distorted you are about it and why you have such intense distortions in how you relate with food. Right? Because you think it's that bad when you really don't have any problems. There's no problem. Being 175 pounds, that's a luxury. That's a luxury problem you're talking about. And it's not even a problem.
Definitely, I would put that in first world problem.
It's not even a problem. You don't have problems. You might, even to say you have pain. I have chronic pain. I have a bulging disc or herniated disc, right? Should I blame it on my body fat? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just a product of the diet industry. You've been brainwashed. So some of this is so innocent. It's innocent that you actually thought that 175 pounds was catastrophic. From the outside, it's innocent. You are a product of that industry. They make hundreds of millions of dollars catastrophizing something as stupid as 175 pounds. You know what I mean? It's not even unhealthy. Okay. The science of body fat is a miracle. The fact that your body is capable of building its fat stores is so important in how the human species has survived for hundreds of thousands of years under famine circumstances. So the more people that famine, the more likely they're going to gain fat. And is that a bad thing, or is that just millions of years of evidence and of evolution working as it should? You got to question the environment you're putting the body in that would promote that type of fat growth. And why are we judging the fat growth when it's life-saving?
Right.
You know what I mean? So your position, the way you've positioned yourself to think and believe didn't come from you. You didn't create these thoughts. These were things you were told and taught, and you've never questioned them, ever.
Right.
Not realizing you have been sold a pile of shit. And you're wondering why you smell like shit. And I'm saying, well, you're eating shit and you smell like shit. But I need the shit. Well, don't complain then about the shittiness. Because it's shit, everything. You really don't have a problem. You're perceiving it as a problem. You're subjectively creating it. If we look at actual hardship or what would be catastrophic, major change and adaptation, that would be very, very difficult, but doable. This is nothing. It is a zero. It's a zero. Because you really don't have a problem. You don't have no limitations, you know, and I just want you to know that thinner bodies get tired too, and they also breathe hard too. You know what I mean? And not only that, but how you perceive your body directly impacts the energy and output that the body provides. So when you feel good and healthy and strong, the energy level of the body goes up. So the perceptions you have about your body have a direct impact on how you feel in your body.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. You just never thought of it like that, you know? So my goal is to open your mind, to get you to look at it, to hear what you're saying, to question the dogma that you've never questioned. You know, 175 pounds, if that was made permanent, how bad is that? You know, part of it too is not just looking at how you've distorted it to be more catastrophic than it really would be, but to also look at how you have, on the other side of it, magnified thinness to be far better than it actually is. Right? You've been thin before. Am I right?
Yeah.
It's not as awesome as you're thinking it is. And you know it. It doesn't do what the fantasy does. The fantasy of it is way more better. It is so much better. The fantasy is high as a kite, right? It's super euphoric. What you think you're going to get when you're thinner. Do you actually get that when you hit that destination? Do you get it? You don't.
No, I mean,
there's minor physical changes, especially at the weight zone you're describing. You know, when I talk to someone who's 400 pounds, getting down to 175 would be a major physical change, right?
Right.
You know, so with where you're at, you've distorted, you know, if you're distorting your weight to be catastrophic, look at the other side that's being distorted too. If 175 is catastrophic, look at how big you're blowing up the thinnerness and the importance of that thinnerness. If you look at it just physically, take out the symbolism, look at it physically, it's really not that big of a difference.
Right.
Okay, so what makes it feel big is how you've emotionalized it. You wouldn't, and so how you're emotionalizing 175 pounds to be catastrophic, okay, tells me how prideful and arrogant and narcissistic the thin supremacy is in your mind. Okay, that's important for you to see that, to go, yeah, if I wasn't as prideful about the thinness, being overweight would not be so catastrophic. It really wouldn't. It's not that big of a difference. You know, we're talking 20, 30, 40 pounds. That isn't that significant in terms of, you know, yeah, your clothes are going to have to be a different size, that's for sure, but you can still be comfortable in clothes.
Yeah.
So it's not really discomfort in clothes. Right? Observe this for yourself. I don't want you to take this like I'm attacking you. I'm attacking the perception. I'm saying look at the perception. This is a great example of cognitive distortion. If there's anything you can do in your spare time, just Google cognitive distortion and look at all the examples of how people do it. All or nothing, diminishing how bad something is, magnifying how good something is, or vice versa. Diminishing how good something is, magnifying how bad it is, you know, both directions. You know what I mean? That would be good for you to look at. And you can see, well, I've cognitively distorted the importance of thinness. And that is why I have distorted what I have to be so bad to where it's unacceptable. I can't accept it. This is unacceptable. The worst case scenario, right?
Right.
So in relation to the protocol, to make it a medical procedure, we have to undistort how you feel about your weight so that you don't have that kind of ego, and you're not trapped by the ego around this protocol. You're more likely to cheat today. Tomorrow, you won't finish this round if you hold on to that idea of thin supremacy makes the world go round. Because it really doesn't in reality. Again, the illusion you have in your mind of what this is going to do, it's not happening. That's why the protocol feels so shitty. If it did happen, if it was as magical as the fantasy is describing it, wouldn't this be easy? It would have been easy yesterday.
Right.
So you have to wonder, is it really as awesome? You know? Because the protocol provides you the means to that end. And if you want that end as bad as you do, why is the means feeling so shitty? Why would you be so quickly willing to sabotage it? You know?
Right.
And so there's a variety of ways to approach it. And I'll finish the session with this. There's either you make a quick adjustment to see it as medical procedure and completely black out that emotional need for thinness from existence. You'll get through this protocol quick, easy. Okay?
Okay.
That's one side. The other side is we need to get you to diminish this emotional need for thinness that is being magnified. We need to undistort how important thinness really is. And we need to undistort how bad your body really is. Both of those together are going to make a huge impact on how you transition off the protocol. Not just following the protocol, but how you transition off of it, right? Because once you're done with the protocol, if you go back, if you revert back to fatness is terrible and thinness is majestic, you're going to sabotage at the end of this. So I'd hope not. I'm not hoping you sabotage, but I've just seen this enough to go, oh, with this perspective, you're more likely to relapse. And I don't want that to happen for you. Right?
Right. But I don't want it to happen to me either.
So we got to go in here and address some of the underlying issues. Even though it's uncomfortable, right? I mean, I'm probably creating a lot of dissonance. Like, oh my God, she's making me look at this shit. I don't want to admit it. You know. It's for your own good.
No, I agree. And I want to be successful.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop recording this.